Welcome back to Motorhead Garage, presented by Dustless Blasting. Now, LS conversions have become very popular, especially in the Jeep world, but Rpmextreme took it to the next level. They actually integrate everything into the Jeep system so it works. I got John here from Rpmextreme. John, that's kind of silly, so everything works. It's supposed to work, but really that's a complex task. What made you develop this system?
Well, first of all, we're all Jeep guys. I've always been a Jeep guy. You buy a new Jeep, put wheels, tires, lift on it, bumpers. The 3.8 just doesn't have enough power. I went the route, we did some superchargers, did some work there. Wasn't enough, the durability's not there, and with 1 million plus 3.8 Jeeps running around, I wanted to develop a kit to put an LS motor in and go down my hot rod background and actually be able to do something with the Jeep.
Well, that's a complex task. I mean, there's CANs bus, there's networks, there's all kinds of things to do that. That's crazy. The development side is complex, but the end user is pretty simple. Why don't we start here, talk about the products on the table that I can take this Jeep and put it together, pretty simple with a complex system. Let's go here with the motor mounts and start and work our way down.
Okay, so this is basic stuff, 2007 to 2011.
Right.
And then you have 12 and newer on these Jeeps. So this kit's gonna work for both. Harness will be a little different. Starting in the front, you have your motor mounts. Take your entire powertrain out, clean it up. These weld in, they're marked and located. That's really the only welding that you have to do.
Okay.
From there back, you go to the transfer case. There's a transfer case adapter. So you're using your stock Jeep transfer case, 241J. Right. That's gonna mount back to your 6L80 GM transmission. Transmission mount and bracket, so everything's pretty much plug and play. Basic hand tools, you're done.
I'm going to go ahead and get each one of these packages, or
yep, everything's going to have hardware. It's going to be labeled. Everything's powder coated, except for the motor mounts. These are just displays, but yours will be raw metal because you are going to weld those in. Going under the dash, you're going to have accelerator pedal mount bracket. So you're going to use a GM accelerator pedal. And under the hood, you're going to have, really that's just a computer bracket. So it's going to mount behind your factory computer.
Nice. So
keeping everything nice and tidy.
Plug and play right here as far as bolting things up, the accelerator pedal. The real magic lies right here, though. This is so impressive. The harness, the labeled harnesses, everything you put together. We were talking a little bit about it earlier. Tell us about the harness and some of the options, and really, it's just plug and play. There's no doubt about it.
So what we did is we developed, we call it kind of a smart harness. Everything is laid out. The LS side's pretty basic. There's a lot of people doing standalone. But what we wanted to do is integrate it to the Jeep where it's plug and play, and incorporate our CAN bus module. So not only do you get a factory looking harness that lays in the Jeep right and looks correct, everything's labeled, got OEM style connectors. You also get the CAN bus module, which is where all the magic is.
Absolutely. Now, really impressive was a couple different makes and models may have some different plugs. Your harness can fit them all.
Yeah, so we're going to support anything that's a Gen 4 engine, 5.3, 6.0, 6.2. That's including the LS3, the crate motors, everything. So if you have a truck motor, it's got VVT, the connector's already on the harness. If you have an LS3 that does not have VVT, that CAN plugs on the harness. You don't have to cut, splice, hack, or rewire. Active fuel management, everything is supported in this.
Yeah, the key word is cut and hack. I mean, it's plug and play, truly plug and play, all the way down to the evap solenoids. And then you keep saying CAN bus. And for our audience, that's computer talk for how these things talk back and forth. The genius is getting the Chrysler to talk to the GM and everything to work. I mean, you might slap one in there, stuff's not going to work. This one works. Let's go through the rest of the system as we start right here.
Okay, so on your Jeep, you have some option codes. Let's say you wanted to run a newer style fan on the older Jeep. When we program your CAN bus, we already hard-coded in there. So you get your module, this is going to plug into the OBD2 port, you're going to hit the button twice, and it's going to flash your Jeep to whatever options we have based on this kit. So you don't have to send us anything, no reprogramming your Jeep side, everything stays factory.
Perfect. Hey, let's see it in action. You got the engine set up right here. I mean, it's this simple. Show me some of the plugs and the plugs-ins. What does it take? I know we got two different computers.
So this is just kind of a mock-up. We have the harness laid in here. The harness is going to come out the back so everything's hidden, so when you open the hood it looks nice and clean. Your computer, your Jeep computer lays here, your GM computer mounts right behind it on the bracket. You have a plug and play Jeep side connector, so this actually plugs into the firewall right back into the Jeep connector and interfaces to the TIPM and a couple other pieces in there.
Right.
Then you have your underdash harness, which is going to be fuses, relays, CAN bus module, accelerator pedal, and OBD2 port.
Well, we got the basics down. You know what we need to do? We'll take a short commercial break, and when we come back, Brian's actually at the Jeep. We'll see all this stuff in action. It really looks clean here. It's actually cleaner on the Jeep. Unbelievable. We'll be right back with more Motorhead Garage presented by Dustless Blasting.
Motorhead Garage presented by Dustless Blasting, coming to you from Borla Commerce Park.
Welcome back to Motorhead Garage presented by Dustless Blasting. John Gardner took you through the basic components and the layout of the Rpmextreme LS conversion kit for Jeeps. We actually have the company's Trail Beast here. It's a 500 horsepower Jeep. It's got a 6.2 liter LS3 under the hood, and it fits like the factory put it there in the first place, which is obviously the end goal of any engine conversion. That's the easy part. Getting the physical engine in the thing is easy. You've done the hard work, John. Take us through the layout of the electronic end of things, especially how it applies to the driver's compartment.
So what we did here is we wanted to come up with a visual to where people can see how it's laid out. GM side, Jeep side, CAN bus in the middle. The CAN bus module is something we developed. You know, hundreds of hours went into this trying to figure out the messages and making everything work the way the factory did. The simple terms, it takes the GM messages, translates them for the Jeep side, takes the Jeep side messages, translates them for GM. So all your factory controls, all your switches, everything still functions the way that both factories intended.
Including, which I think is maybe the most impressive element, the tap shift behind the steering wheel.
Yeah, you have full GM tap shift. 12 and newers, you get your bump shifter factory. We've integrated it into the cruise control switch that you can see here. Cruise plus and minus will tap shift. You also get cruise or gear plus and minus on the top.
That's a big deal. If you're on the trail, you're trying to crawl some rocks, you want to lock the thing in a low gear, and you can control it without having to be reaching around the cockpit and just use those paddle shifters. That's mint. One of the other impressive things I think about this kit is your radiator, which, you know, a radiator, an integral part, especially if you're going to try to cool 500 horsepower like this one, and you've gone the extra mile here as well.
Yeah, so we make a few different designs. We make a single core and a dual core. Anything 6 liters and larger or hot climates, I recommend doing the dual core. Everything is plug and play, factory condenser, factory fans bolt up, and you can do either the 3.8 or the newer Pentastar fan, which is pulse width modulated.
You know, the air conditioning, like in this engine, I can look back, I can see in the firewall you guys have the air conditioning lines installed. And once again, it goes back to the same element about fitting the engine in. It's one thing to make up some air conditioning lines, but the AC system on these engines, there's a lot of stuff going on outside of simply kicking the compressor on and off.
Yeah, so we use all GM accessories, GM AC compressors. We make the AC hoses plug and play. So when you get your kit, everything's going to bolt up. We also, into the CAN bus module, we're integrating the Jeep AC compressor controls with the GM side. So when you turn your AC on, the idle comes up. Everything works the way that GM intended it.
So in this application, we got the 6.2 liter in here, but you don't have to go with the 6.2 motor. Basically, any LS engine, a 4th gen LS, so we're talking 07 or newer, right?
Correct. So 5.3, 6.0, 6.2 with a 6L80 6-speed automatic.
The greatest thing about this, and again, you have a box. You get the box at your house, you open this up, and immediately some guys are going to go, oh man, there's so much stuff going on here. Everything's terminated and labeled. Everything is laid out. You may have gotten some panic phone calls in your day of guys, that initial reaction. What is the most important message to a guy who wants to do this job himself or a shop that's thinking about doing the job?
The most important thing is everything's going to be in the box. We want to educate you up front, either through the website or through the Jeep forums, what parts you need, what works, what doesn't. When you get your kit, you know what you need. Everything comes in the box. So Friday, Saturday night, get a case of beer, get your buddies over, and you start tearing your Jeep apart.
Pretty awesome stuff. And your website is great because it lays out in very specific terms and detail what you need to do. You talked about with John the fact that you can program your factory options in. When somebody orders one of these kits, they basically send you a sheet. You're able to build that CAN bus. You're able to build that program for them so they don't have to ship computers back and forth. There's no using the postal service or something's not going to get broken or lost in the mail. Correct.
You don't have to modify anything on the factory Jeep side. We will do a checklist, pre-program everything, make sure you have everything ready to go.
One last question for you. Whether you're a professional shop, whether you're a guy working in the garage on a weekend with your buddies to do this install or over a span of a couple weekends, what's customer support like?
Customer support, we really pride ourselves on that. The instructions are going to be, right now, currently 70 pages, full color, a lot of pictures. You know, guys like pictures. My cell phone number is in the instructions. So weekends, you're out, you're drinking some beer, your buddies are there, you got a Jeep tore apart, you run into a spot you don't understand, pick up the phone, call me, send me a text, just don't do it at midnight, something like that.
Well, that's standing behind your product, and that's what people want to know, that they have the comfort, that you believe in this enough that your cell phone number is literally attached to it. John, thanks so much for coming in. Very impressive integrated kit. John Gardner's 74 Pinto is parked outside. We're going to go drive this Jeep over it for fun, and we'll tell him about that later. We'll be back with more Moterhead Garage right after this.